What remote locations on Earth have the reputation for being the most isolated, far from the hustle and bustle of human interaction? Most of the Canadian Arctic. It is remote, isolated, and near impossible to navigate as one would in a more developed part of the world. One could live off the land up there and never see another human being for the rest of their lives. I miss working up there. I forgot what it's called, but there is a YouTube page called Seek Discomfort, and one of their guys went on vacation on an island that never really gets tourists, and his presence was kind of throwing off the locals. It's not like he wasn't welcome, but they were used to the rare businessman showing up once or twice a year, never anyone coming for vacation. Surprisingly enough, he ran into a fan on the island who thought it was hilarious he was on the island for a vacation, haha. Pretty sure the island's population was around 100 people, so his presence was pretty much noticed immediately, but they were welcoming to him. Sentinel Islands. The protected parts of the Amazon are mostly left alone because it's too much for even experienced travelers. Falkland Islands. It was bizarre world. Imagine visiting England, but something is kind of off and people have pet reindeers leashed in their front yards. Also a whale skeleton, and a cannon, and a horse with a fence that came up to my knees, and a yard with the world's largest collection of garden gnomes. Antarctica. It's used by no one other than scientists, and there aren't any people who live there permanently. It's just penguins and seals. Point Nemo. If you're looking for the most remote place, Tristan.Cunha proudly holds the title of most remote inhabited archipelago, so distant that even Wi-Fi signals get homesick. I lived in French Polynesia and spent 6 months in Maupiti. Have a look at it. 9 km radius in the Pacific Ocean, 50 km from Bora Bora. Pretty secluded. The locals in Maupiti refuse to have any hotel on the island, so it's very calm with only a few tourists. When I was there were 2 policemen, but they weren't on the island for weeks. Best place to relax and rethink your life. Siberia is an incredibly huge area of remote nothingness. Pitcairn Islands. Tristan.Cunha, no means of reaching it other than by boat, middle of the Atlantic on a volcano. Here's a documentary from the 80s, https://youtube.burp/psvpfwlk. In 1961, the entire population evacuated to the UK when the volcano looked as if it might destroy the town, while in the UK, and were offered the opportunity to stay, but most elected to return. Through hiking, the Pacific Crest Trail basically removes you from modern society and puts you into a small, nomadic tribe setting that is accepting and feels like every man for every man. You still occasionally get phone service and stop off in small towns for food, but for about 6 months you can completely forget the real world and your old life. Everyone goes by trail names, nobody cares about your past unless you want to share. It's a real mind fuck coming back, but amazing. I'm doing the Continental Divide Trail now. Way fewer people. Some days you don't see anyone at all. CDT is less social and more brutal. Type 2 fun on this trail and extremely isolated. Average guy looking for somewhere to live after a breakup. Most of Canada, just drive north. Anywhere in the very far north of North America. There's tons of isolated communities that can only be reached by bush plane in the northern territories of Canada or Alaska. If you don't mind the cold and are into that kind of thing, it's a pretty appealing option. I've seriously considered it myself. Diddaloo in the Goda Mountains of Djibouti. While I was serving with the US military providing humanitarian assistance in the region, I joined up with a member of the French Air Force and took a drive up there to spend the weekend. We had both heard about how remote and beautiful it was. It was a long drive up narrow dirt roads on the sides of steep cliffs. As soon as we arrived, we settled into some crude huts with water basins to freshen up. When asked what we wanted to eat, we indicated chicken, and then we watched as the proprietor chased down a chicken in the yard to cook up for us for dinner. Fresh, free-range food. The experience was refreshing and quite far away from human interaction other than the occasional talk with the owner of the huts. Very pleasant. I couldn't find Diddaloo on TripAdvisor. St. Helena is pretty damn isolated. The people that do live there are amazing though. Socotra Island in Yemen. Along with being isolated, it has some stunning landscapes, including the weirdly beautiful mushroom-shaped trees that can't be found elsewhere on Earth. Beaver Island, Michigan, for an isolated and fiercely independent community, yet only a 2-hour ferry ride from Charlevoix. The surrounding Beaver Archipelago for truly nothing at all, but deer and seagulls and an occasional burial ground.